Well, if that Kenyan socialist, fascist, communist, terrorist, Barack Hussein Obama won't help me, I better find someone powerful who will. Hey, Obama, can I borrow your plane?
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Chad McCanna.
And I'm Hyle Russell.
I think the ape raper over there is getting up to some ironic shenanigans this week.
He sounds like he's getting political. I don't like where this is going.
I'm curious, do his adventures canonically take place in real time with the episode? Because he's spent several weeks in the Oval Office at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
He operates in extreme slow motion, although in little bursts when our episode begins.
No, this is what the liberal media won't report on, the fact that there's an ape raper in the Oval Office for like 3 weeks running.
Why would they not want to report on that? All right. It seems like no matter your political leanings, that would be substantive news.
Yeah. But Donald Trump is so much more entertaining. Anyway, guys, welcome to the Kongversation.
We obviously we're a little bit behind. We've had some technical malfunctions earlier in the week, but there has been a veritable dump of news from Playtonic Games over their upcoming Rare-inspired 3D platformer Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, that's right. And not only did they release a massive Kickstarter backer update and website update last week, but they just went live with an Edge magazine article on Playtonic that is available in the UK this week. So we have a whole slew of news to get to concerning Yooka-Laylee.
Indeed.
So, but before that, we probably should get to some due diligence, because why not? We got bills to pay, bills for E3 to pay.
Oh yeah, we've got repo men to fend off. So let's get to our due diligence.
They're gonna repo our E3 press passes.
right, yeah. Like, hang on, I don't think you actually met the hits threshold.
Yeah.
Okay, so this live stream, if you're listening to it at our $5 and up tier, is being brought to you by our Patreon. That's at dkvine.com/Patreon. We've got loads of great rewards for you depending on the tier at which you donate, but there's also milestones that can, if everyone collectively donates to a certain level, we'll start doing more and more content. A lot of it's video-based.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting on Twitch and starting to entertain the masses with my brilliant comedy. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, be very careful, because the masses can be quite fickle.
I know. But luckily, nobody will watch me. So anyway, but that's what you can get as a milestone on Patreon.
Consistency.
Also, I just have to say E3 is coming up in just a couple of weeks. We are going to be live on the show floor, bouncing back and forth.
Don't promise that. There's like a Wi-Fi dead zone over the LA Convention Center during E3.
Dude, Wi-Fi. I'm on Verizon, man. I've got the LTE, man. I've got the hookup for the Skype chat, the inner circle.
So we won't have to siphon off poor Amir's data plan again this year?
Yeah, no. I've got the data plan for the masses, and we are going to be on the show floor. So if you want news straight from the show floor, as if you were on the show floor, then the inner circle is the price point for the Patreon that you want to go for, because Chad and I will be able to make it feel like you're there with us.
Right. Now we can't promise complete immersion from the Nintendo Zelda booth, but we can at least I think we can at least promise partial immersion.
Yeah, well, just the tip of into Zelda. What?
Come on.
What?
This is another one that's going to be listened to by like several degrees of magnitude more than we usually get. Don't make it just the tip joke.
Oh, I'm sure if it's several degrees that Kevin Bacon will appreciate a good penis joke.
I just watched Tremors the other night, actually.
Yeah, I hear he's got a graboid the size this big.
We've all seen Wild Things.
Yeah, we were all teenage boys once upon a time, even girls.
Right.
Yeah.
That box art didn't tell the whole story of what was going to be scantily clad in the movie.
So anyway, yeah, but also, of course, the DK Vine forum is also going to be a way you can stay plugged in during E3. In just 2 weeks, we're going to be launching E3 2016 discussion, which is going to be the hub of a lot of your E3 experiences. E3 2016 discussion, it's going to be where not only you can talk about DKU games like Yooka-Laylee, which, we had Andy Robinson and Steve Males on the Kongversation a few weeks ago. They pretty much said they're going to be at E3, right? So, you're going to have that experience. We're hoping we're going to see some Sea of Thieves, being promoted by Microsoft at E3. So
yeah, I don't think it's been officially confirmed that Rare's there, but it would be. I mean, after their huge blowout at E3 last year, it would be crazy if they weren't. So we're fingers crossed
for Sea of Thieves. Plus, you never know what surprises will be sprung upon us at E3. And if you're not,
yeah, you never know. Bovina might be in the new Legend of Zelda.
You never know where Kevin Callahan might be lurking, but
oh, come on. I think we need to put that to bed once and for all. I think that's the big news since our last episode, isn't it?
What, that Monster Games is working on a racing game that's a NASCAR game?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the dream of Kevin Callahan is dead and buried.
Well, we don't know. It
No! Yes, we do! Yes, we do know!
Crunch could be in it. Crunch could be a NASCAR driver.
All right.
I'm just saying, like I don't know. Maybe they'll bring in Redneck Kong and some of the more southern characters that we've lost through the years, and maybe it'll work. I don't know. I as you always say, Chad, there's literally no way to know.
At this point, I would say you're better off hoping for Saberman Stampede to make an appearance.
Oh, I hope this is the year we get Saberman Stampede. But no,
it might be. It might be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you're not a DK, if you're more than just a DKU fan, I should say, because if you're listening to this, I hope you're a fan of some of the games we talk about. But if you're not, the E3 2016 discussion, you can also talk about games like the new Legend of Zelda and the new Legend of Zelda, and
that's right.
And I don't know, maybe the new Legend of Zelda.
I hear there's going to be a new Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. So, all the great games at E3 2016 you can discuss on the DK Vine forum with like-minded weirdos. So that's at dkvine.com/forum.
That's right. Also, we're on iTunes and Stitcher and Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and YouTube. And you can find us on all of those things, dkvine.com/ the social media platform of your choice. Just type it right there in the URL, and it will forward you on over. And then you can like and subscribe like a good little minion. So tell your friends about the show as well. If this is the kind of thing that you enjoy and you know someone who is one of the aforementioned like-minded weirdos in your life, point them over here. Worst case scenario, they never speak to you again, but you can always make more friends.
Yeah, this is the internet. There's plenty of friends for you to make.
That's right. Just go to one of the AOL keyword chat rooms.
I was thinking a news group.
Oh, yeah. You could do that, like alt.tv.xfiles.
Yeah.
That was really buzzing after the Curse of the Weremonster.
Are the news groups still up?
I think they've been archived, but you can still read them. I don't think they're active.
That's
Although
a shame.
you'd think that would be like the domain of some Northern California super nerd to actually preserve them out of an overheated garage server rack. I feel like that's something that someone would have done.
Yeah. I just think it's a shame if they're no longer around. I mean, look at DK Vine. We're almost at 17 years running, and we're not throwing in a towel.
Yeah, no. I think we're good through 2017, right? Yeah, we bought our server for another 3 years. Yeah, we renew the same way Big Bang Theory does. If our site was measured in Chuck Lorre's sitcoms, we would effectively be 2.5 men.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna do any Charlie Sheen jokes. I'm gonna keep it clean for the fans.
Got to start sometime.
Because I know there's the Venn diagram. There's a big cross section between Charlie Sheen fans and Yooka-Laylee fans.
You can't insult.
I can't.
All right. So Yooka-Laylee, a lot of news that was sort of doled out over the last, really the last week.
Well,
where did it all start?
It started back on May 13th, actually.
The social media stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, on May 13th, Playtonic Games changed their Twitter handle to Ivory Towers. And with that, they changed their logo to a honeycomb icon. And they shot off this cryptic tweet that said, "Forms fabricated, shareholders synergized, minions monetized." Speaking of minions, commence hostile takeover, and hostile takeovers all in caps.
Yes, this is very important to the story.
I'm trying to feed the experience to the blind.
This is a case-sensitive narrative.
It is. So. From the name Ivory Towers, a honeycomb icon, and the business jargon, it was surmised by a lot of people that the main villain or villains of Yooka-Laylee were capitalistic honeybees. Or, I know, Chad, you posited the theory, worst case scenario, it could have been a bear.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. The Twitter icon for Ivory Towers was essentially an open honeycomb. And one of the things that I've been bemoaning a lot about what we've seen of Playtonic Games thus far is that it seems to be, almost invariably evocative of not just Rare, the studio's logo, it's especially, but of Banjo-Kazooie. And I'm really anxious to see some of that new content, which thankfully would play out in the next few days. But I was worried that this would be yet another example of appropriating Banjo-Kazooie iconography, and that we would wind up with a bear villain, which, could be all sorts of metatextually troubling. Well, but thankfully it went with the capitalist B.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was going to be a bear because with a game that's trading on so much nostalgia and love for Banjo-Kazooie, I don't think you would want to make a bear or even a honey bear the main villain, because that would basically be tearing down people's childhoods.
Would it, though? I don't know. Maybe this is more of a subject for later in the show when we start talking about the game's narrative, but to an extent, I feel like the same people that... I feel like the tone has sort of evolved since the inception of the Kickstarter from the fan base. I feel like it's less pro-Banjo and more anti-Rare. And again, I'm saying the Playtonic fan base, not necessarily Playtonic themselves, but it's... I worry that the fans would see a bear villain as the last screw to Rare. Like, we don't need you, we got Yooka-Laylee. Thankfully, it's not how it went, but I'm putting myself back on May 13th and all of the worries and anxieties I had about the possible direction, because it would be a very easy thing for Playtonic to subtly lean into, that could do quite well for what seems to be a very vocal segment of their fan base.
Well, Chad, to be fair, we all have anxieties on Friday the 13th. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Right. Jamie Lee Curtis, most of all.
That's Halloween. You completely botched that reference.
No. She was the mom in the one with Lindsay Lohan, wasn't she?
What the fuck are you talking about?
The Friday the 13th wasn't... Oh, wait.
That was Freaky Friday.
That was Freaky Friday. Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. I completely thought you were talking about Freaky Friday. Okay.
I was like, what? She was Jason Voorhees' mom? What are you talking about?
No, Friday, that was yeah, okay.
That was like 3 degrees off. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, well, we did discuss Kevin Bacon earlier in the show.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway.
At any rate, do you take my point?
I don't even know what we were arguing about now. 3 days later, okay, we got past Friday the 13th, and Lindsay Lohan...
We spent those 3 days arguing about which movie Jamie Lee Curtis was in.
Yeah, okay, so Friday the 13th was over, Lindsay Lohan defeated the Mean Girls, and we got to May 16th, and... Ivory Towers blasted off another tweet, which is how I like to say when people tweet. They blast off tweets.
I think that is the acceptable verb.
Yeah. Okay, so they said, updated outlook. And then there's a colon there. We're ready to initiate the second pillar of our vertical ellipses. Acquire the assets of @QuackCore.
QuackCore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a corp without the S. It's not Blast Core.
Right. It's not the Green Lantern Corps.
Wow. By the way, our $5 and up patrons get to listen to this train wreck live, and they are loving my Freaky Friday faux pas. Yeah, enjoy that. I like to call them out every now and then, especially when they have nothing substantive to say other than to ridicule me.
Yeah, it's good for yours. It's good to keep you humble, Chad, because
because my self-esteem is always walking on sunshine. Yeah.
Well, you project an air of uber confidence, so they like to take it down a peg, not knowing that you're already bottom of the barrel as far as esteem goes.
Yeah, I'm just a quivering mess inside this strong veneer. You have no idea. Okay,
Anyway, so Quack Corp was a new Twitter account that Playtonic obviously set up. And I don't know, Quack Corp had liked a bunch of duck and tech-related Twitter accounts. And before anybody says anything, yes, Momechi.
Oh, yeah, the whole the duck thing. That must... I was immediately thinking that he would love that. I think it's everything that he ever wanted. Do you think it could have been just for him?
I think we got some things just for us in this game, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
So
I know that some people were engaging with the other Twitter accounts that seem to be part of this ARG, but it was difficult because a lot of I know that especially DK Vine forumer MF Wolf, Mitchell Wolf, was doing a lot of poking and prodding on these accounts, as were a few other people. I think Scrap69 was in there too. It seems like there was a little bit of bewilderment about why there's this influx of people tweeting them. Either that or whomever was running the accounts was very good at playing the game.
I'm pretty sure they're mostly all real Twitter accounts. They're real companies.
Okay.
And Playtonic just liked things that were relevant to what's in the game itself.
Right.
So, yeah, I think there was this false assumption that we were in the middle of an ARG. And it seemed like we were at the time. So I think people really got into it, not realizing that it would. And maybe this is why Playtonic put the stop to it, like, almost immediately, because I feel like a lot of these companies probably got harassed.
Yeah, or if not just harassed, then just sent really confusing questions about animal games.
Yeah. So, like I said, I thought we were in the middle of an ARG that would take us up all the way to E3. And so I was like, okay, so at E3, the plot of the game is going to be revealed. But in the meantime, we're going to be thrust into this alternate reality game which is what our ARG stands for you grandpas out there. And so I thought this was going to go on for a couple weeks. Nope. It ended.
Yeah.
It ended.
But I think that was probably for the best. And honestly, it seems like they've been preparing this info dump for a while. As far back certainly as when we talked to Andy Robinson and Steve Mails on the show. Andy said he had been taking screenshots that very week, and I think those screenshots are ultimately what we saw here. So,
obviously they were preparing an article with Edge. So, this had been in the works for some time. It was Friday, May 20th, I want to say. So 1 week after this Ivory Towers business started.
That's right.
That they did a Kickstarter backer update, and they updated their website with basically the story of Yooka-Laylee, the story so far. And we also got...
Before you jump into that, though, we have 13 phone calls this episode. So I think we're going to play them kind of in chronological order. So they may actually flow with the narrative of all these revelations.
So
should we take 13, a couple?
13 phone calls. That takes us right up to a Freaky Friday.
Perfect.
Hi, this is Karate Joe. I have a question here about the new Yooka-Laylee news. Actually, it's a joke. Here's the joke. Don't you think the name Batship Crazy is a little on the nose.
Oh, well, that's not a joke. That's a question. You were right the first time. Did you catch that, Hyle?
The Batship Crazy, yeah, that's that's one of the more recent reveals that we got.
So much for my idea that it would be chronological.
Yeah, that completely took us to the end of my show notes. So,
so yes, the game starts apparently with Yooka and Laylee on the Batship Crazy. Thank you for the question, by the way, Karate Joe.
It's a wrecked pirate ship that they obviously. Laylee is a bat, so and this wrecked pirate ship is what they've turned their home into.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. What do you reckon about that name? What do you think?
That's fine.
Is it too on the nose for an E rating, or do
you mean is it too scandalous? Is it too like
yes?
No.
Yes.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think my only issue with that, and it's our job to scrutinize all this stuff, so really no one should give a shit. I wouldn't end the name of a vessel with an adjective. It seems like it's not a good foundation to end the name on. But if you're going for the pun batshit crazy, obviously you can't scramble those words around or it won't read. So. That's my only issue with it, but no, it's fine.
Yeah, I like it. It's got that same cheekiness that we've come to know and love from Rare, so it's fine. Yeah,
yeah.
So that was his joke,
that was a joke.
I really don't get that one.
Yeah, as I said, it really seems more like a dedicated question.
I consider myself a bit of a jokester, and I never heard that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're always one for the yucks. Let's take another couple calls.
Take that one to the Catskills next time I perform up there.
Right. Yeah, you won't have to do the spoons no more.
Hey there, this is Derek from the Rare Witch Project forums.
Ooh.
It was said that there will be multiple multiplayer minigames in Yooka-Laylee, and I was just wondering, what would you like to see as a multiplayer minigame? Love the show. Thanks. Bye.
Well, I would imagine there's going to be probably a race-based minigame using the minecart mechanics. Do you think?
I know they've announced that. Okay, I'm sorry, Andy. I know you're probably listening to this. Retrosaurus 64us.
No, it's Rextrendo 6. Yeah, Retrex. Rextro. It's Rextro. I know it's Rextro. What's the next part?
Isn't the X silent?
Retro?
Yeah.
With a silent X? It's like Django Unchained. I know the dinosaur that looks like Recoil from DKC3.
Yeah, I know his arcade games are multiplayer, up to 4 players.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm assuming this is what he's referring to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, so, yeah, perhaps I guess we need to those people who are listening that have not already absorbed the news media of the last few days. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump will be in a charity debate, and there was a dinosaur.
Nope, that's been canceled.
Oh, was that canceled already?
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine why. And there was a dinosaur called Rextro 64us, yeah?
Rextrando 64 Velociraptor.
Rextonio Banderas. And he will allow you to play 8 multiplayer arcade games. Now, Hyle, my question is, do you think that these games will be multiplayer versions of mechanics that are already in the base game of Yooka-Laylee, or will they be specifically developed multiplayer games a la Klungo Saves the World?
Yeah, I think they might even be parodies of real arcade games.
Oh, okay.
That's my hunch, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's maybe a mix of both, actually. I mean, I don't, obviously they have an N64 sized team to make a game that has much higher artistic and audio fidelity than an N64 game. So I would assume that the majority of their time would have to go into making the base game. That's just why I was thinking that perhaps these multiplayer games will be extrapolated from that.
But
But it'd be cool if they were unique.
I mean, Klungo Saves the World was intentionally shit, and I don't think these are going to be intentionally shit. So.
No. I didn't mean in that sense, and nor was it multiplayer. I just mean like it's going to be a completely separate experience from the game.
Right. Yeah, I this is something I've been curious about since the Kickstarter campaign. If they're actually going to like license real arcade games, I assume that would be too costly, and they wouldn't actually be able to own the rights to those. So I think they're going to be built from scratch. But whether they emulate, or as in like they're homages to real arcade games, or they're just like from in-game mechanics, I have no idea yet. So I really can't answer your question. I'm sorry.
I had a lot of trouble. Anyone who's been watching my Banjo-Tooie streams knows that I'm awful at the first-person shooter thing. I've had problems with that, so I'm hoping that that's not in the cards. That was sort of the underpinnings of a lot of the Banjo-Tooie multiplayer. But aside from that, I know that we know that from the Edge article that there's some Yooka racing, where Laylee kind of gets up on Yuka's back and there's that roll move, and you have to take pit stops to power up on, I believe, butterflies.
Yes.
So perhaps that could be a strategic race where you'd have multiple Yukas or maybe multiple multicolored chameleons that sort of race alongside each other and try and steal each other's butterflies kind of a strategic way. So that could be fun. There's a lot of different things they could do. And
I would be excited to see. I mean, I know one of them is going to be a racing game, so it's going to be great to see that. And it might even be a preview for a future Playtonic game, should they ever get into kart racing.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We know that I think it was Kev Bayless who was tweeting several months ago about how much he would like to do a fighting game at Playtonic. And there's a whole, obviously he was pretty instrumental in the art for Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
There's a whole,
he looks like he could be a Killer Instinct character, Kev Bayless. He's jacked.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wanted. It might be apocryphal, but I think one of the KI models was either based on him or people made fun of him thinking that he based it on himself. I can't remember which it was, but
B Orchard. It was just.
It was B Orchard, right? He's got that meticulously sculpted buttocks,
and the implausible square breast, yeah.
or kid. Yeah, she doesn't oversee an entire field of trees. This is not a Tropicana commercial.
Well, it's still an easier name to say than Retribution. Retribution. Ultra
Reparations. 64us. Yeah. Let's take
We're
another
just
call, then we'll talk about
now.
I know. We know what it is. It's Rextro 64us. We know the name. We're just unrepentant assholes. Andy, I'm sorry. Let's take another call.
All right.
What's up, Chad and Hyle? This is Crusher the Guido, frequent lurker on the DK Vine forums. I do comment once in a while. But for my topic to bring up to you guys is kind of the whole idea of Rare and, the buyout and kind of how we look at Rare and what happened with them before with Nintendo and Microsoft is like this huge tragedy and like a ton of like untapped potential and like how tragic it is and whatnot, and it's kind of like a lot of what this website's about. But the point of what I'm saying is, what if like Playtonic, like their reign lasts like a long time, and they have like so many great franchises, and like in 10 years in hindsight we'll look back and be like, all of that trouble back in the day was just kind of like a build-up so Playtonic could happen. So kind of a little like new agey and kind of optimistic way of looking at things, but I have an inkling that that's what's going to happen, and Playtonic is going to be better than Rare was in its heyday. So hopefully I articulated my point decently well, and see you guys around.
Well, thank you for a call, Crusher the Guido.
Thank you.
I think Ed Bryan might also have an inkling, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, burn, sick burn.
No. I like the design. It's goofy. It's just there's been comparisons made. Anyway, I don't know. I feel like that's sort of a false comparison.
I feel like that's a loaded question to begin with.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to start, or do you want me
Sure.
to start?
No. I'm happy to. As I said, I think that it's really it's beyond apples and oranges. I made a comparison on the forum that it's like bananas and magnetic filaments. It's like you can't even compare Playtonic and Rare at this point. They're doing two completely different things. And
yeah.
While I can understand sort of the idea if you're sort of blurring your vision and looking at the last 10 years and thinking that this perceived upheaval at Rare, sowed the field for Playtonic to emerge, I think that's ignoring a lot of the great work that has been done at Rare and continues to be done at Rare. I mean, Sea of Thieves is to some extent an unknown quantity, but let's be honest, so is Playtonic. So is Yooka-Laylee. I mean, Playtonic has not released a game before. Rare has. So it's a bunch of people that have shipped games at Playtonic, but I think it's extremely premature for anyone to think that Rare's gone and Playtonic is going to fill that void. They're trying to do very different things, and there's room in the market for both of them.
I also think it's also forcing a narrative upon Rare, and that a narrative that persists to this day, but you've also got to take into account that the Don Matrick years of Xbox maybe weren't the most fruitful for Rare, but now look at Phil Spencer and how supportive he is of the studio, and we truly are entering a new era at Rare that seems very promising as a fan, And it really, I wish nothing but the best for both Rare and Playtonic, because I'm a fan of all the people at Rare and all the people at Playtonic, and I want both to be successful, because if both are successful, I get more games. I think
we should all be selfish in this, right? We should want to have the most things.
Yeah, I understand the want and the desire for tribalism, for like rooting for your home team, rah rah rah, but. I view Playtonic and Rare as my home team. I think it's a folly to draw a distinction other than these are separate teams of people. And I hope Playtonic is very successful, and they have they can do something that Rare can't, in that they can develop for Nintendo, for Sony. They can maybe make deals with them in the future. And that's great. But also Rare has the security of fucking Microsoft behind them. They can do some sick stuff, if given the chance. And I think they are being given the chance now.
And that's part of the narrative that I think a lot of people overlook is, these quote unquote dark years of Rare. I mean, maybe the Kinect sports games weren't for you,
right? But
those games sold, and they proved that with completely untested technology, Rare could do something pretty spectacular. They milked every bit of performance out of the Kinect hardware and the Xbox 360 and One hardware, and I think that engendered a lot of trust between them and Microsoft, and probably paved the way for them to get the sort of freedom that they have now with the likes of Replay and Sea of Thieves.
And I think Rare is allowed to be Rare again. I don't think it. I mean, it's apparent since last E3, but
yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty evident just talking to everyone at Rare that we did at the show last year.
Yeah,
it was. They were. If they've all drank the Kool-Aid, they must have that on tap in Twycross, because every single one of them was singing the praises of the direction the company's taking.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about like the direction they've taken under Craig Duncan. I think he gets it. And look, I think Playtonic. I'm excited about Yooka-Laylee too, and I think that Can they be bigger than Rare? Well, no, that's silly. I mean, like, because, well, for one thing, Rare of old looms large in a lot of our childhoods. And for that reason alone, nothing's ever going to match it or surpass it. But I think we are in an age now where Rare is allowed to be Rare. Playtonic is off doing their thing, bringing back a lot of those classic vibes. And I think we've got the best of both worlds now. So I don't think it should necessarily be a competition so much as a compliment to each other.
Yeah.
So
agreed. So on that note, you want to talk about the story of this game?
I would love to, Chad.
All right. So walk us through it.
All right. So this is the story as I understand it.
Okay.
So capital B. It's capital and then just the letter B.
Right.
Which it's a clever pun, I would say.
It's Queen Bee and Honey Bee style.
Yes.
From DKC and Banjo-Tooie respectively.
Right. So capital B, he's a bee man. And he's not a bee man, he's a bee. He's an anthropomorphic bee in a suit. Honeybee style. Although Honeybee, I think, was stark naked, so but she's not that corporate honeybee, so
That's true.
Capital B, he is the head of Ivory Towers, and that acquires tech company Quack Corp.
Ivory Towers is a publishing company, by the way.
Really? So okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was mentioned.
Okay, I completely glossed over that. I thought I was thinking there was some sort of like I don't know, just a company that is in the business of making money for itself that doesn't actually do anything, but like acquires other, like venture capitalists. But
sure. Well, maybe that's the implication.
Okay.
But it was specifically mentioned.
Well,
I can't imagine why I would want to point that detail out.
Well, a publishing company would make sense with the tomes, so
the books, right?
So, Dr. Quack and Dr. Puzz, which is how I read that name, Dr. Puzz.
Wow, you're completely missing the pun on that one. That's like my favorite game. My favorite name.
Dr. Puzz. Dr. Puzz.
Dr. Puzz. Dr. Puzz. It doesn't translate across the Atlantic quite so
well.
No,
it doesn't. When you're American, see, I'm Americanizing it to the point where it's Dr. Puzz, and it just sounds weird and gross.
I can't be bothered to say Dr. Puzz. You have to say it in the voice of Ringo Starr. Not even a Liverpudlian accent.
Yeah, it has to be Ringo. Yeah, this is a game. Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll get Ringo to do the narration in the game. He has done.
In a Dr. Puzz's waiting room.
You know what? When you pointed out the pun to me, I got the pun. I did not understand the pun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did it because my American accented brain could not read it right. Holy shit. All right, well done.
It's good. It's actually a good one.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Playtonic. All right. You got me there. You got me. All right. Dr. Quack and Dr. Puzz both worked for Quack Corp, but as Ivory Towers acquires Quack Corp, Dr. Quack stays behind as Capital B takes over. And I'm quoting the actual text now. Capital B is a ruthless exosuit-wearing fowl who's making the best of a bad situation under the corporate rule of Capital B. The good doctor wasn't always this unpleasant, but the ruthless takeover of his Quack Corp organization has persuaded Quack to concoct all manner of crude inventions to satisfy the demands of his new boss, and the shareholders, of course. And then this is about Dr. Puzz, or Dr. Puzz.
Okay.
Dr. Puzz proved far more morally rigid than her former colleague, breaking ties with Quack Corp as soon as the exosuit started stirring, and taking her own inventions with her. The Tentacle Technician, designed by Ed Mumbo Jumbo Bryan, is the gateway to all of Yooka-Laylee's wild and wonderful transformations, which we'll be revealing in the near future. So, Chad.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about the implication?
I feel like you keep teeing me up for the tension-filled stuff.
I know you enjoy it. I'm far more easygoing.
Non-confrontational.
I'm freewheeling. I'm an easy rider. I go with the breeze, baby. Wherever the wind.
Path of least resistance.
Wherever the wind blows me in, that's where I go. All right.
All right. Well, unlike you, I calls them like I sees them. And when I read this, let's be honest. I just got done talking about how I'm getting a bit tired of the reappropriated banjo iconography. And
granted, before we get back, before we get into the story,
did you want me to go through this or
not? No.
Okay.
But you keep talking about the reappropriated banjo iconography, and yes, it does exist. But I will say that Capital B, Dr. Puzz,
the character designs.
Yeah, they're both nothing like we've seen in a banjo game. Even Capital B, we've seen anthropomorphic bees in banjo games before. Capital B, he looks like a DreamWorks character. I don't.
He's Gru from Despicable Me from the shoulders up, and he's Piglet from Nuts and Bolts from the shoulders down.
I've also heard Gru.
It works.
I've also heard Gru mixed with one of his own minions.
I've
also I offered the comparison. The love child of Danny DeVito and Richard Nixon suffering from jaundice.
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's.
I can see that.
I think that's appropriate, but I'll say, I like Capital B's design. I like that he has the vanity cane with the honeycomb on top.
I like that he has the sort of cape coat, like overcoat that he's wearing on his shoulders with the monogrammed bee. Like there are a lot of great touches in that character.
I mean, So now, granted, they did kind of shamelessly homage the box art of Banjo-Kazooie in the character parade, but.
Although, if you look back, there's a lot of box art that does exactly the same thing. Like the Super Mario ones usually were, the old ones anyway, were Mario running away from a giant boss through a sea of drones. I mean, it's not just Banjo, but it's definitely intentionally evocative of Banjo.
But, we had, Andy and Steve on the show a few weeks back, and Andy did explain they do have to walk that line of people are looking for a spiritual banjo successor, and so I'm pleased with this. This is enough new and enough old that it pleases me at least. But again,
the character design,
but as I said before, I just go with the wind, baby. So,
well, should we also talk about Dr. Puzz while we're on the subject, or should I continue?
Well, do you want to talk about her design or her tag along friend?
Well, let's save that one for later.
Okay.
But
all right.
her design very recently, in the last day or two, Ed Bryan tweeted like his original like cocktail napkin sketch of the character, and it's come a long way since.
I like that he designed it on a cocktail napkin. Clearly, alcohol was involved in the design process.
Yeah, it's an octopus that has like 9 limbs, and some of those are Zoidberg tentacles that come out of the bottom like a beard.
I don't understand the basic character, and maybe you can inform me of what I'm missing.
Why would I know?
I don't know.
Where are you off?
Is it like, is she a mutant? Is she like a girl like crossbred with an octopus creature, or is she like a human with an octopus stuck on her head, or
I'm not
what is going on here? Because she has a human body underneath the octopus part.
Yeah, and what looks like a humanoid face, too. I think, honestly, the one detail that's completely throwing me is the nose. I think if this thing didn't have a nose, it would look a lot more cephalopod-like.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, was she like a genetic creation of Dr. Quack?
Perhaps. Yeah, maybe that was... Yeah, or maybe she's the result of like some... Jeff Goldblum experiment gone horribly wrong.
We always come back to Jeff Goldblum here on the
Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We always go back to Jeff Goldblum here on the Kongversation. At this point, we really need to get him on the show to give us his thoughts on Yooka-Laylee.
Yeah, we're the Goldblum variation of the Tom Hanks podcast.
the Hanksgiving.
Hanksgiving. Yeah. That's right.
Another plug for you there, Hanksgiving.
They never thought they'd get so many listeners from the Kongversation.
We help each other out.
Right. There's a lot of crossover in our fan base.
Honestly, I am curious about Dr. Puzz, and now that I know the pun, I find it delightful.
Yes.
I want to know more about her, and I'm going to fan wank the hell out of her if they don't give us the deets on her. So that's on you, Playtonic. I want to know why she has the body of a human and the head of a octopus type creature.
Well, thankfully, if you're going to be doing any fan wanking, it seems like a very wank-friendly character. So,
what?
Well, I think Rule 34 will have a field day with this one. Is what I'm trying to say.
I don't see how you could be aroused by this. Look,
that's a fair point.
I like the design well enough. I'm a big Ed Bryan fan.
I I just think there may be some even bigger Hokusai fans out
Okay.
there.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like because you could get a prostate massage at the same time.
What?
With the arm with the octopus arms, it could
No,
wrap
I
around
was
you.
making the famous Japanese wood carving artist Katsushika
Oh.
Hokusai.
Oh, I just assumed he was a guy who was into tentacle porn like the rest of us. You know, just
No, like the rest of us. Speak for yourself. Okay, so yeah, we'll get to Dr. Puzz's little companion a bit later, but yeah, I think
that sounds dirty too. I don't know why everything about this character sounds filthy.
such is the magic of Edmund Bryan. No, I like it. It's like except for the nose, it's just kind of batshit enough.
They could have also called her Docta, Doctah, Dr. Puss, but I'm glad they didn't do that.
yeah, that would have leaned into the Rule 34s of the world. But so back to the story.
Okay, so now
yeah.
I read this story on my phone while I was on the go, and
Important details.
No, it was because I don't think any like metatextual context, any potential possible metatextual context sunk in. I read it. And because I wasn't in my innermost chamber of thoughts, I was on the go. I was rushing around, and I was like, okay, I'm down with that story, and I liked it because it doesn't involve magic, and it involves like corporate hierarchies, which is something we haven't really seen in Rare games, in the Donkey Kong universe, in Banjo-Kazooie. I was afraid that the plot was going to evolve around a warlock who or
industry versus nature, which
is one of the most oft repeated tropes in Rare games for good reason, but at the same time I was excited to see something new, and I was actually thinking Chad should be pleased about this because this is a brand new plot. This is not treating on tired ground. And I was like, okay. It wasn't until later that night that the idea stuck in my head that I had time to reflect on it, and I was like,
okay,
oh no, that can't be it, can it?
And did you arrive at that independently, or was it because I was wearing my apparently tinfoil hat and spouting out insanity?
No, I'm not trying to sell you out, man. I arrived at it independently, and then I talked with you about it just a bit, and it was I was like, oh, I really hope that's not it. I didn't.
But we're dancing around it. But let's kind of just be blatant with kind of what we both read into this. The plot line is maybe it's just backstory. Maybe this only plays out via text in the opening cinema, and it really has no bearing in the game itself. I kind of hope that's what it is. But essentially, it's about a giant publishing company, Microsoft, there's a hostile acquisition of an ingenious tech firm, and there are two types of employees at that tech firm. There are the ones that lean into it, appeal to the shareholders, and become corrupted, and there are the ones that are morally rigid and make their way out of it onto the side of good. That's the division between Dr. Quack and Dr. Puzz. So by the way, before we go any further in that, is there anything I'm leaving out?
No, I mean, I think we're still dancing around it. I mean, obviously, like it's
evocative to me anyway of the lazy narrative between Microsoft and Rare and what went on. Perhaps from the point of view of someone who was there and displayed moral rigidity and left for sunnier climes.
By the way, when you say lazy narrative, again, we have to stress it's not a narrative that Playtonic has been pushing, nor has anybody in any official capacity been pushing.
And that's what troubled me about this, because until this point, Playtonic has only been referential to Rare. They haven't really been helping to cultivate this narrative that a lot of their fans have been doing. They've essentially stayed above that. And I was worried that this marked a shift in the tone of the company and the game that they're making. However,
even in the original, I should point out, to back up your point there, even in the original Edge magazine article that first had that broke a lot of the news about Project Yooka-Laylee at the time.
Right.
Gavin Price said he knew what Rare was working on and he thought fans would love it. So even back then, there wasn't this we're going to take him out. You know, it was still very much, oh, we're all friends here. You know, we're just making the game that a lot of fans have been asking for. So yeah.
So a few days ago, I actually was able to speak to Andy Robinson, the writer and basically the mouthpiece of Playtonic, about exactly this topic. And he said that the perceived connection that fans like me have made is absolutely not what they're aiming for. And they were kind of thinking of a wide-ranging story that could span more than one game, and there's only a tiny bit of the overall narrative that they've set up so far, and that they've even revealed to us from this game itself.
Okay.
So part of a larger tapestry, not their intent. What do you make of that?
I don't see any reason not to take him at his word. I can see, it seems to be the metatextual narrative is there, but before I found out, before I read Andy's remarks to you, I was hoping that, there would be more to it that would not be the damnation of modern day Rare that it seems to be.
Right.
And I brought Don Matrick earlier in the show, and that whole era of Rare and how they've seemed to turn a corner at Microsoft Studios itself with St. Phil Spencer, and I was even thinking maybe there can even be some sort of further commentary on that, how Quack Corp is doing fine now. I don't know, like, I'm willing to see where it plays out before I cast any judgments, because I'm really looking forward to Yooka-Laylee. I'm a fan of everybody who's making the game, and I trust them, and so I'm going to take them at their word. My only concern, though, is that a lot of the lazy narrative bandwagoners out there who are looking to pick a fight are going to see this as validation, and they may not pay attention to where the story actually goes.
And that's the problem I still have. And by the way, I really want to thank Andy for reaching out.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I had been tweeting along those lines, and so I'm sure he knew. They follow us. They're very gracious enough to see what our insane ramblings are on Twitter, and I'm sure he knew that I was reading exactly that into it. So Andy, I really appreciate you coming to us and trying to clear it up. And like Hyle, I want to take you at your word on that. I don't think there's any reason for us not to. I do also still though share the concern that Hyle you just said that people will read into it. I'm also a bit concerned because the comparison, given the history of Playtonic referencing Rare's logos, its iconography, the basic tropes of gameplay in Banjo-Kazooie, I feel like the comparison is just obvious. And if that was not the intention, or if that was missed, I feel like that's a bit of an oversight. Yeah, to their word, not intentional, but I still feel like it's potentially damaging and potentially leaning into it.
And again, maybe we're just reading way too much into this. This is us finding clues that Paul McCartney is dead, and we're just being over analytical because
it's literally a 1-to-1 analog of the situation as described by basically everyone who posts on Rare's social media feeds.
Okay,
but it's that toxic audience, and it has the potential to give them validation, and whether or not it's intentional, I feel like that potential is still there, and the only victims here are the people at Rare who are just trying to do a good job and promote Sea of Thieves that can't escape this vitriol, and that's why I feel it's still damaging.
No, I agree, but at the same time, looking at the creative process, I can see how they arrived at this story. Obviously, they had the idea of tomes for worlds, like books for worlds, and going from there. Well, who would be holding these books hostage? An evil publishing company. So I could see where you could arrive at this story without going through the whole Microsoft Rare analogy. So I don't know.
I just feel like at some point in the creative process, you take a step back, look at what you've created, and take sight of it in the context in which it exists, and maybe that's the part that was missing.
Yeah, we haven't even played the game.
We haven't played the game. It's really premature for us to be bitching about any of this or applauding any of this, but that was my immediate reaction. I really appreciate Andy clearing up that it wasn't intentional. But yeah, perhaps I think just in the context and given how delicate the relationship is between Playtonic and Rare in the minds of the fans, not necessarily the companies, the people who work there themselves.
Ignoring that they're friends and family,
Right.
Right.
It just has the potential to still lead people astray a bit. Anyway, that's the take on the story. At least mine. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm still on board with absolutely 95% of this game. I think looks fucking fantastic. One little story bit gives me pause, but I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt on the backs of everything else. Time shall tell.
Look, I'll say this much about the story: it's got us talking. I mean, it's got us. I mean, it's been the main topic of conversation on the DK Vine forum since it was revealed. So
yeah, all the good topics of conversation left the show in 2013.
It's true. So, it's definitely. Even going outside of the possible analogy that may or may not exist, it's still one of the most fascinating stories we've gotten in any of these games we cover in quite some time. As much as I love Tropical Freeze, the Kongs getting blown off their island wasn't the most compelling literature I've ever read.
I think that I'm also I think a more interesting comparison, and one that has been raised sort of in parallel to the one that I arrived at.
The parallel?
That's right. Well, we shall see. The Hall of Fame is over, but we have not revealed the winners. Ooh. More about that in a later episode. Was the Disney comparison, because Disney is essentially an acquisition company at this point. They buy the Muppets, they buy Lucasfilm, they buy Marvel, and they're hoarding all the creative media in the world. So if it's more from a hoarding standpoint, which it seems to be the direction the game is going, you're liberating these books and their ghostwriters. That I think is definitely some interesting fertile soil. And Disney is a company that's large enough and bulletproof enough that it could weather the sort of unnecessary shitstorm that Rare is unfortunately besieged by these days.
Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars. That alone gives them immunity. And they have the Disney princesses. So I think those three brands keep them permanently, give them permanent momentum. Yeah, they are. No, it could be Disney. It could be Disney. You could be right. I hadn't even considered Disney, but Dr. Quack. This could just be an indictment against the Walt Disney Corporation. So that would be interesting.
Sure. Let's take a few more calls. And
actually, maybe I should clear that. I don't want to get Playtonic sued. So it's obviously not Disney.
No parody law. They'll be fine.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm sure that stopped Disney in the past.
Hey guys, this is Z here to talk about Yooka-Laylee with you guys, and boy did we get some massive reveals. I mean, yeah, we got the reveal a little bit last week that showed off the new villain, Capital B, and Dr. Quack, and a couple more screenshots, but what I really wanted to talk to you guys about was yesterday's really strong Edge magazine article that almost revealed just as much, if not a bit more, than the actual other thing did. The actual other reveal did. First off, Tribal Stack Tropics, or I think that's the name. Tribal Stack Topics is the name of the first world, and it looks it just looks beautiful. It looks like way better than the initial version shown in the Yooka-Laylee tech demo. I mean, there's this floating cloud there that kind of reminds me of George Ice Cube from Banjo-Tooie. I mean, it's just such a beautiful world, You've got, the Kartos mine track wrapping around it. They said during the interview that, you'll, all of those things, in the far back, you'll be able to explore those. It's the worlds are, the size of the Tooie worlds, which makes me really happy to see that they really aren't just going to do Kazooie all over again. In fact, what really cemented for me that Yooka-Laylee isn't going to be just like Banjo-Kazooie with an overskin is that the Ghost Riders, which are basically the Jinjos of this game, work differently. Like, one's going to try, like, you can just collect one of them, but others are going to try to attack you, others are going to try to hide from you. So it almost gives this sort of puzzle element, you know, like how the Minjos used to attack you in Banjo-Tooie, but instead, like, these are the actual ones you have to collect. But I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, I just want to know, have your guys' fears been eased about this after seeing all this new info come out? Because I certainly have. I mean, I'm still looking forward to Sea of Thieves, just because there's still more mystery around that, but the new stuff I've seen of Yooka-Laylee has really made me excited. Just especially that one idle animation where Laylee is like biting Yuka's ear. That's like incredibly cute. I love it. Anyways, just want to know your guys' thoughts. Have they eased? Are you excited for the game now? Okay, see ya.
All right. Well, thanks for the call, ACZ. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, I mean, without jumping forward to our thesis, or if this is a two-parter, next week's thesis.
Might have to be, yeah.
Yeah, because we've only taken 4 calls and we're already well over an hour in. We have 9 left. Yeah, I'm super excited about Yooka-Laylee. I think that a lot of what we've seen has proven that there's an extreme amount of originality there. My qualms are strictly tonal and character consistency oriented, which we'll talk about a bit more later. But those in the grand scheme of playing and enjoying a game are relatively minute. I think we are in very good hands, and this is going to be a spectacularly fun title.
I seen the new images and whatnot, and it's a gorgeous game. I no doubt it was going to be, but you know, it always just amazes me what rare folk, including Playtonic in this, but what rare folk can do with, you give them an engine, you give them anything to work with, and they're always going to just do magic with it. And I mean, everything from the lighting to just how lush the colors are. This is a gorgeous game, and hearing about the mechanics and how the worlds are going to work and the thought process put into that, it has eased a lot of my fears about what direction this game is going to take.
That's something, by the way, I hope we see more of at E3, how the worlds sort of unfold the more pages you collect.
And I believe Gavin Price talked about it a bit in the Edge magazine article, so we will discuss that, if not this episode, then next. What the thought process was with the pages, and it really made me do a fist pump in the air when I read his answer. So
the ACZ also really got into the concept of the Ghost Riders, and I think they are kind of a natural evolution of the Minjo Jinjo concept. It's, you know, they're definitely the Jinjos of the game. They serve that role.
There seems to be. It's not really a 1-to-1 analog to all the items and collectibles in Banjo-Kazooie, but it's close.
It's like a 1 to a 1.5.
Yeah, because there's twists to each one, and they sometimes perform different functions. But as far as like, you collect this, you do that. There's so many similarities there, which is fine because again, this is a spiritual successor to the first 2 Banjo-Kazooie games. So
But I think that depending on where the Ghost Riders are placed in the world, you know, if you're cornered and then you have to go into the one where you need to fight him, or perhaps there's a really precarious winding path and right in front of it is the one that runs away from you. You know, they could use the terrain in concert with the type of Ghost Rider to really create some interesting combinations.
Yes, absolutely. I think the Ghost Riders might be like where the Jinjos would have evolved had there been a Banjo 3E, you know.
They would have died?
But I mean, you know, I think, you know...
Oh, just from a gameplay point of view.
Because, you know, Banjo 2E introduced the Jinjos that attacked you, but these attack you, one of them attacks you at least in each world, but you also have to then defeat them and collect them, so, or whatever, you know, so... it's kind of the next evolution of the Jinjo philosophy. So
Yeah. And I know they unveiled how the Jinjos look, probably 9 months ago at this point.
Jinjos?
But the Ghost Riders. We've known how Jinjos look for quite some time. John Lovitz told us all about them. No, how the Ghost Riders look. And,
whoa. Capital B kind of looks like John Lovitz.
Oh my God, you might have something on the ball.
That'd be great.
I wonder what he's going to sound like. We do know that the garble speak is back.
Yeah. So, that's another thing we found out about the Edge article, which I don't know. Do you want to take another call, or should we get to? I feel like the last point we get, because I feel like this is going to be a two-parter, which will start taking us right into E3. But I did want to end the episode with the big discussion, the big cherry on our top of our continuity sundae. So, what are you thinking?
Let's take another call, and then let's take another 2 calls, and then we'll talk about that aquatic cherry.
Ew. Again, with the weird references to Dr. Puzz.
Oh God.
Hey, Chad and Hyle. I'm calling about your Yooka-Laylee episode you've got going on. My question is about, I guess, the worlds and the themes of worlds, because, in 3D platformers in the past, every world seems to have sort of a clear-cut theme, like a snow world or a jungle world, lava world, haunted mansion, that type of thing. I'm wondering if there's any particular type of theme you'd like to see in Yooka-Laylee, whether or not they've even announced if there are going to be such clear-cut things as a theme like that in the game, because I know that the worlds are going to expand, and that's kind of one of the cool, most exciting things about the game to me. And you've seen kind of in some concept art and in some of the new screenshots that there's at least a snowy world at some point, but whether or not the entire world is a clear-cut snow world or if that's just a particular portion of the world, I'm not sure yet, and maybe they announced that and I missed, slipped through the cracks of information that I got. But I'm just wondering if you're looking forward to there being themed worlds, and in particular a certain type of theme that you like, or if you want them to be kind of like just like a broad type of world that has different sections that might vary in landscape and stuff like that. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's it. Oh, and by the way, Chad, congratulations on winning the Sea of Thieves contest. That's so awesome, man. When I saw you won, I was super pumped. I'm really happy that, somebody from the DK Vine staff/community is going to be able to go. And that's so cool. Your entry was great, and really, that's awesome. Enjoy yourself. You deserve it. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Thank you for the call. I think it was an unknown caller. Did they say their name?
Tomb of the Unknown Caller. I don't know, yeah.
All right. All the way from the tomb. Thank you for the kind words about my entry. As I always do, I will deflect the praise onto the other folks that entered. But it's an honor to be in that crowd. And, really looking forward to what comes next. Yeah, to get to the question, Hyle, what do you make of the the worlds that we've seen thus far, and how would you like to see them sort of themed?
I'm fine just keeping the one basic theme. You can kind of stretch them out as far as you can without breaking them, but I think a game like this, you don't want to get too carried away with breaking off from the central. Each world has a basic archetype. It's got to be like the sci-fi planet principle. Like, implausibly, each world has one ecosystem.
We've had conversations about how to theme worlds in the past with Jamie Guy, who is the project lead on Lobo Destroyo, which I don't think it's no longer La Liga de los Villanos versus the Lobo Destroyo, right?
I believe it's been shortened, but I would have to take that up with legal. I don't know.
You'd think the writers of the game would know these things.
We're only writers to an extent. We are still not in charge of the basic branding of the game. So
At any rate, I want to mention that game. It's had some staffing restructuring, but Hyle and I are both still in the project, and we're really looking forward to it moving forward. It's a 3D platforming title that was, heavily inspired by Rare and kind of wears that on its shoulder, much along the lines of Yooka-Laylee and games like A Hat in Time. So check that out and look forward to some more updates from that in the coming months. But the thing that we had been talking about with Jamie, the way that he really wanted to structure his worlds was sort of mashing up two tropes that you normally wouldn't see together, like a theme park and a volcano.
I don't think that's a spoil. I think that's already been released information.
Oh, that's definitely already released.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think the name of the world has been released, or it might not be. But at any rate, he's very keen on trying to mix it up in that way. Seems like Playtonic is, as you say, going for kind of the one idea, the jungle world, the frozen world.
Well, to an extent, because
but there's no right or wrong answer.
No. And I think Tropical Freeze is another game that did the mashup qualities well with like Juicy Jungle. You had a factory jungle, but it was still. It wasn't a jarring juxtaposition.
That was more so you had these sort of automated platform movements that required precision timing, but you still had that jungle aesthetic.
Yeah, and it can be done, but I wouldn't want to see, like, let's say a frozen snow world that then you go down like maybe if you go down and it's like a tundra and stuff like that, but so long as it keeps the basic theme, you're not just like, and you can have things like Hailfire Peaks where the whole contrast is the point of the world, but I don't know, like things with like Tribal Stack Tropics, which is the first world of the game. It's a very much like an Avatar style jungle in that you got floating islands. And I say Avatar, but it's commonly seen in a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi literature.
Yeah. They all use unobtainium.
Yeah,
that unobtainium itself is a very common sci-fi trope. Philip K. Dick loved the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's so long as you're doing something original with the archetype and it's not just jungle, then fine. I'm happy with it. Like, I think there's something to be said for a simple, clean look and feel and aesthetic and vibe. So, considering this is Playtonic's first time up the bat as far as being Playtonic, I hope a lot that they keep it streamlined in a lot of ways.
Yeah. My hope for it is more in the process at which they come up with the ideas for the worlds. I would rather they approach them rather than ticking off boxes, volcano world, sand world,
the Mario
world,
way
frozen.
of doing things.
The Mario way.
And when I say the Mario way, I mean the lazy Mario games. I'm not trying to besmirch the name of the good Mario game, so don't jump down my throat, people. I'm talking about new Super Mario Brothers style. Oh, well, I guess we have to have, it's World 2. Let's have a desert world. Make sure you get those pyramids in the background. What? It's noon. Yeah. It's time to hit the golf course. Good day's work, everybody.
We've regressed to Super Mario Brothers 3, and we shan't move on from it. I hope that instead they take a look at how they want to ratchet up the difficulty of the worlds and the gameplay that would come naturally from interacting with the worlds, slippery surfaces, trees to climb. I hope that the tropes, if you will, that they choose are more in response to the gameplay that they're trying to introduce at that point in the game. And because we know that the artists that Playtonic has can make anything look gorgeous. I have no concerns about that.
Yeah.
It's just I want it to be kind of gameplay first rather than this is to be expected of us, so let's do it.
Right, but and also
which is probably what they're doing.
Yeah, but what also I'm thinking, considering the fact that these take place within tomes, within storybooks,
Sure.
you can actually draw from a lot of tropes that way that maybe wouldn't be seen in a video game typically, like tropes from literature and you can have a lot of familiar elements and kind of play with them at the same time, but also in ways that we haven't seen in video games before. So it's okay that it's an Avatar like jungle because again, I said that's a trope from a lot of sci-fi and fantasy novels. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take another caller. We'll talk about our little fishy friend.
Oh, and, spoilers! I did not even mention what he was yet.
I said aquatic. I figured by this point people would have looked at the key art and figured it out.
It could have been Clanker for all they knew.
A very tiny Clanker. All right.
Hey guys, this is JRS73 from the forum. A first-time caller here. I was curious about your thoughts on ukulele game. And if you guys ever thought that, I think maybe one day Nintendo will be smart enough to work closely with Playtonic like they used to with Rare. Just something that's always been on my mind since the Playtonic's ever been around. It's something I kind of hope happens one day, as a big fan of their past work and of Nintendo still today. I was just curious about what your thoughts were, and can't wait to hear it. Thanks.
Oh,
all right. Thank you for the call. J-Rush73, was it?
J-Rez?
J-Rez.
I'm not sure, but...
J-Puzz73?
Okay, well, thank you for the call, and yeah, this is something I know I've brought up on the forum and potentially on the Kongversation in the past.
Well, what's one more time?
That's the motto of the Kongversation. What's
right,
one more time?
190 at this point. What's one more?
Well, for starters, I think it needs to be spelled out that before we get all fanciful and carried away with our delusions of fandom, that Nintendo is not the Nintendo of the 90s. They seem to be afraid of outsiders at this point. They lock themselves away in their bunker, and they're stockpiling.
Literally, they are literally doing the things Hyle's describing.
No, I mean, what else are they doing this year? They're not releasing jack shit. So
you're saying that their E3 Zelda presence is just a cover so that they can turn into doomsday preppers.
I'm saying we're going to get to E3, and instead of Zelda being on display, it's just going to be a lot of canned goods.
It'll be like the most elaborate, it'll be like a topiary of canned goods in the shape of Epona.
Yeah, and they'll just hope it fools us long enough. So Nintendo is definitely batting down the hatches, and they especially don't really work much with Westerners at this point. I think Retro Studios, some others are basically it, and they're fully owned by Nintendo. So I think the relationship they had with Rare, the culture has changed way too much at Nintendo. That being said, the exciting thing about Playtonic is they are essentially an independent team of Rare staffers who could potentially work with Nintendo again. They're at least releasing a game that's going to be able to be on a Nintendo console again. So, I mean, nothing is impossible, and who knows where Nintendo is going to be in a few years from now, let alone Playtonic. So, I would absolutely love to see them tackle, say, a Donkey Kong game. I just don't say. I would just say don't count on that happening, because at this point in time, that's probably the furthest thing from either company's goals. So,
right. Playtonic has not shipped a game yet.
Right.
But before we go saying what licenses we want to ascribe to this company, let them at least put one game out. Let's see where their strengths and weaknesses are, and then maybe we'll have a better idea of what we would like to see them take on
I really hope
next.
Metroid fans get pissed off when they announce their second game and it's not Metroid. And it should be pointed out, too, before we start saying, I really hope Playtonic takes over the Donkey Kong series. Wouldn't it be nice? Yeah, it would be nice, but I'm sure Playtonic wants to develop their own IPs, develop their own, the characters that they own outright, and not just do work for hire.
Right, and that's not even a suspicion that we have. They have basically said from the beginning that they're already envisioning a larger world. And then when Andy, very graciously clarified some of the criticisms that we had about the story, he also underscored the idea that they have a broader narrative in mind that could span multiple games. So just put the brakes on a little bit.
No, I understand the impulse to speculate and to get carried away, because I do the same thing. I do the same thing on this show. I've done the same thing since I was a kid. I remember sitting in the back of my parents' car on family vacation, just Donkey Kong Land had come out and Donkey Kong Country 2 had been announced, and I remember plotting out the next 5 years of Donkey Kong games in my head.
Right.
I mean, I know what it's like.
It's easy to do as a fan.
It's easy to do, and it leads to many disappointing E3s as a result.
Yes.
So
Kevin Callahan will come through for us this year, right?
there's enough to look forward to this year. Kevin Callahan can take the year off, as far as I'm concerned. He better be there next year. But
it's the kind of franchise blindness that could make you see Donkey Kong Golf in the logo for Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
But it's also the kind of thing that poisons fan bases like Metroid, where when Retro's not working on their game, it's a declaration of war.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
It's strange to me. I feel like one of the big differences, one of the big shifts in my personal approach to things like IP and game studios is not thinking of them as buildings and companies that just sort of churn out this title. These are collections of people and people have strengths and weaknesses, and they shift between companies, and they collect and they disperse and they mix and match. And ultimately, you need to look at the people that are making these games, and you want those people to be passionate about what they're making. And if Retro Studios is not passionate about Metroid or Donkey Kong Country, then I want to see what they are passionate about.
I think that's the way I've kind of started going to. I think it was the Tropical Freeze backlash that made me take a look at how I personally react to things like that. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was also in meeting a lot of rare people in the flesh last E3 that made me realize these are real people behind the games.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a collection of names and end credits.
Right.
And
first initial, last name. That's all we knew.
And so I think from there, my position has also evolved to where you're at, where I want Playtonic to make the games they want to make. I don't want to be entitled as a fan and say, well, I want Yooka-Laylee 2, I want Yooka-Laylee 3, I want Yooka-Laylee 4. I want you to make a Donkey Kong game because you guys made Donkey Kong games once upon a time. Uh-huh. I would love to see them make a Donkey Kong game. I would love to see that. I think Donkey Kong needs a stable home. And if they want to incorporate Donkey Kong into the larger Playtonic universe, bully. But if they don't want to do that, and Nintendo doesn't want to do that, well, what can you do?
Right. So thank you for the call.
Thank you for the call.
JPuzz73. And let's before we end this one, we'll pick it up next week with the rest of our calls and the rest of the Yooka-Laylee news, leaning heavily on the Edge article. But
we're going to be edging next week, guys.
Yeah, only in UK. Although you can actually, I found this out, if you want to check out the Edge article and you do not live in the United Kingdom. Digitally, but not on a desktop site. Another example of Andy Robinson being very helpful. I was moaning on Twitter about the fact that I had to pay $30 for a year subscription. That's not true. It's only $5 if you buy it from the iOS app. I think it's available on tablet and iPhone.
And it should be pointed out, we do get Edge magazine here in the States. It's just usually about 3 weeks behind.
Right. And so that by the time you hear our next half, it may just be showing up in the stores.
Or it may be post E3 by the time we finally get it.
Oh, you'll be a bit behind the times then. Check out the article if you can. There are some less savory places that I think are posting it, but if you're interested in it and you don't mind
support
the $5,
Edge. Edge is an awesome magazine. I would support it if you can, because they deserve it.
Yeah.
And
so at any rate, part of the revelation of Dr. Puzz was that there's a little sidekick floating around her. I guess it's a inverted fishbowl.
Well, is it a sidekick or a tag along? I'm not really sure. Like, it's
Royston the goldfish. I mean,
it's a goldfish that looks remarkably like Royston,
identical to Royston.
It's Royston.
It's Royston.
It's Royston as far as legally Playtonic can say it's Royston, which they can't say at all. It's Royston, but we play. Okay.
a little history. Yeah.
Here's the thing. Okay. So if you want to be impressed with the how far we've come as a site in the community,
don't call us influencers.
No. I'm not going to use that. Although technically, according to some documents we are influencers.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
So in the last few years, we've actually been able to have a dialogue with a lot of the people. Again, to use that term, the term people. We've been able to have a dialogue with the people and the creators of these universes and this shared universe that we love.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, a lot of people, for the first time, besides Lee Loveday, are privy to the game. And the game of making these character connections and making this shared universe.
Mm-hmm.
One of them who is kind of enthusiastically supported the cause and indulged us far more than we deserve is one Ed Bryan.
Right. Although he's fucked with us a little bit with the likes of Mumbo Jumbo. he gaveth and then he taketh away.
In what way?
Because Ed created Mumbo Jumbo, and I'm not pissed off about this. It's utterly inconsequential. But he was kind of led by the nose by me on Twitter to confirm that Mumbo was a Jinjo.
Right.
I don't think that was ever his intention, but I kind of got him to say it without him understanding how Word of God works.
Right.
And so then we were able to say, creator of Mumbo says Mumbo's a Jinjo, which is the stupidest cause to have. I mean, there are people fighting world hunger and putting up malaria nets. I care about whether this fictional thing is another fictional thing.
But here's the thing, Chad. You really don't know. If we actually found out what Mumbo Jumbo was, world hunger might go away.
Could be.
That could be part of the curse.
But then later on in one of the more recent Rare Revealed videos, I think they were talking about the history of Banjo-Kazooie, and they're interviewing Ed, and he specifically said, "No, I'm sorry, he's not a Jinjo."
It should be pointed out, Ed Bryan is no longer with Rare, but he still has appeared on the I think all of the Banjo-Kazooie Rare Revealed videos. And he's with Nosy Crow at the moment.
Yeah.
Full-time at least. And
he and his brother.
Yes, and it was at Nosy Crow, in which they develop kind of interactive storybook apps for the children. For the children folk.
and they're beautifully made too. The art is incredible, and they've got some really interesting tech that makes use of the mobile platform. If you have a young kid, between like 2 and 5, check out Nosy Crow apps on the App Store. You will not be disappointed.
Well, if you have a young kid, or if you're an obsessive weirdo at heart, because as people who've been listening to the conversation at least since the end of last year know, after some campaigning, we got Ed Bryan to put a certain goldfish in the release Goldilocks and Little Bear.
Now, I'm not going to take credit for it. I don't know if it was in response to us. Maybe he's just he has a predilection toward inserting goldfish into his art. It's his calling card.
I'm not going to
maybe
take credit. I'm not going to take credit for it, but it was after, because the game he released prior to that, which was it Jack and the Beanstalk?
Yes.
He was he was promoting it on Twitter by saying, just kind of like joking around, saying that this cow in the game was Bovina or whatnot.
Right.
And that's created a huge debate on the DK Vine forum about whether these characters actually would be such and such. And ultimately we had to side that no, these characters in Jack and the Beanstalk were not, and Ed Bryan was just taking the piss on Twitter. Twitter jokes, as I said. Twitter jokes cannot be canon. But then that opened up a larger issue, and Ed Bryan was aware of all of this, and it eventually led to him actually putting Royston the Goldfish, or as legally as he's allowed to admit, Royston the Goldfish in Goldilocks and Little Bear.
Yeah.
And we came down on the side that, because Word of God and whatnot, and also there are multiple facets at work. Go back and listen to the actual episode itself.
Well, just look at the fact that he is the pet of an anthropomorphic bear. It's pretty obvious.
And there's a picture in the house too of what's ostensibly it's a sketch of Banjo and Kazooie.
It's a black and white bear and bird that look a lot. They look kind of like our bear bird DK Vine stickers.
Also skirts the law.
Yeah.
But So I mean, there's enough, and Ed Bryan is, as far as I know, the creator of Royston.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So it's his character to kind of carry around with him, and the fact that it showed up again here.
If any character can skirt these legal matters, it's Royston.
Right.
So. Yeah.
I don't think Rare or Microsoft would have any interest in stamping down on that valuable Goldfish IP. So
no, I don't think anybody cares. It's kind of just an in joke.
Yeah,
Royston's always been an in joke. So yeah, we accepted Goldilocks and Little Bear as part of DKU canon. And since Yooka-Laylee was announced, we have been campaigning even before Ed Bryan, volunteered his efforts. We've been campaigning to get a goldfish in the game that taps 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Now we have not yet seen the animation,
but it's already been clarified that Royston doesn't necessarily have to tap 3 times for it to be Royston.
It's true.
Because he doesn't always do that.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
That would just, his character would stagnate. You want to see some evolution there.
Yeah, potentially 2 taps, sometimes upwards of 5.
Yeah. So, we've been campaigning this since Yooka-Laylee was announced, and it's been just a silly thing we've been doing, but we wanted Yooka-Laylee to be part of the DKU. And of course,
as we define it, which is character connection oriented.
Right.
Yeah.
And granted, obviously Playtonic is building their own universe, but if we can just have that small connection to our shared universe, then the Playtonic universe can just be part of that larger tapestry.
Right, like Hivory Towers would just be over the horizon somewhere beyond the Isle of Hags.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure. I mean, we know this game, there's going to be like a pirate shipwreck, which just plays right into the DKU. I mean, the Rare Archipelago.
Right.
So, and granted, we are respecting Playtonic's independence. We're not trying to pigeonhole them into this pre-existing structure. But
no, this is just the general conceit of DK Vine since the beginning. We try to cluster them all together into the same shared world. Even if this is our fandom, Yeah. It doesn't matter what their intention is. We're going to say death of the author, and we'll take ownership of it from here. Thanks, guys.
But at the same time, from the Kickstarter campaign, we found out that Chris Sutherland was going to be reprising his role as one of the rappers from DK64, which opened up a larger debate last summer. Are the DK rappers characters unto themselves? And ultimately, we came down on the side that yes, they are. However, we wanted to wait and see if Yooka-Laylee was Donkey Kong Universe, because it's one thing to say, okay, the DK rapper, Chris Sutherland reprising his role as one half of the DK rappers, referred to as the GK rappers now, as GK Grant Kirkhope. It's one thing to say, okay, this will make it DKU, a full-fledged Donkey Kong spin-off, which is, it's half piss take, half serious. That's the way we operate here. But
and unlike Grant Kirkhope, we were relying on a bit of luck in this situation. There's no way for us to. That's a reference to that rap. You know the rap I'm referencing?
Hey, Chad, can you give me a yeah again?
I will not.
Okay.
I will not. At any rate, that was a very tenuous connection that we were trying to make, but we were grasping at straws, and it was the only one we had. But
here's the thing. Here's the thing. You convinced me on that, though. You completely won me over on the argument.
That was a whole bunch of horseshit. I can't believe you came around on that. I was expecting the argument to collapse like a house of cards.
No, you were right. There's in-universe evidence that these are actually real rappers, and this is a real thing that exists in-universe. How could you not be right?
Because they tell Cranky to take it to the fridge, and he complies.
Yeah, but also Funky mentions the DK rap in-game text.
That's
in
true.
DKC2 GBA.
Yeah.
Donkey Konga, you perform the DK rap. It's a thing that exists, people. Get over it.
Okay.
Anyway, I've been hinging on the DK rapper, and I completely gave up on the notion that Royston or an incognito Royston would appear in Yooka-Laylee. It hasn't even been on my radar, honestly. I was like, okay, well, the DK rapper, Chris Sutherland, fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be enough, and it's going to be a full-fledged Donkey Kong spin-off. We'll have Playtonic discussion moved up on the forum. It'll be the newest branch of the DKU. Well, we have another we have another connection now, and it is the original one we were angling for.
Mm-hmm.
Royston, Ed Bryan has put, not even snuck a goldfish or sneaked,
right there.
Not even sneaked a goldfish in the game. It's right there on what I presume is going to be the motherfucking box art. And
right. I think, is this a first for Royston? A box art appearance?
Yeah, he's not. I
know that there's not going to be a physical product to this game, but they will make those fake N64 boxes.
Yeah, no. He is. This is a first for him. This is his most prominent appearance in years, because honestly, like, he's been just kind of hiding in the shadows. You know, whenever he makes appearance, he was in Connect Sports Season 2, but that wasn't really broadcast that much. He was in, obviously the Viva Pinata series, but he was disguised as a pinata. That's very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And he appeared in Nuts and Bolts. You know, that was a big prominent appearance for him, but
never on
for the
box.
most part.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And, granted, Steve Mails kind of muddied the waters a little bit when it comes to this.
He said maybe, though. So Mails on Twitter, I cropped out Royston from Dr. Puzz's headshot and posted it on Twitter saying, here we go, it's DKU. And Steve said maybe a distant relation, but the maybe and the fact that it was Ed that did it, I think we're going to get a little creative with our definition of word of God in this case. What do you think?
So long as they don't sully it in game.
Yeah. Just don't mention it. Just let him sort of. He could even talk, and his name could be a bunch of question marks. I mean, unless it's specifically contradicted, and this is not Royston, then we're gonna say it's Royston.
So long as it's not even an issue. You don't even have to, like, maybe even Yooka-Laylee could even comment, "Oh, I like the goldfish in your bowl." But
what goldfish?
Yeah. So long as you play the game, we'll play the game along right with you.
He's like, oh, you can see him too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ed Bryan. Seriously.
Yes.
I don't know if you did that for us, but if you did, it should go without saying, but it is much, much appreciated. There was a lot of happiness in the DK Vine community when we saw that goldfish. I should point out, even if this is Royston, the GK rapper, one half of the GK rappers, will still make this a full-fledged Donkey Kong spin-off, and it's not going to be relegated to Fish and Chaps discussion on the forum. So it's going to be its own designation, Playtonic.
All right, well, there you have it. I mean, in no uncertain terms, to end the episode, would you like to make a declaration about the status of this game?
Well, I mean, we still haven't seen the GK rapper. And Royston could still be contradicted, but you know what? At this point, we have such overwhelming evidence that I guess I'll just say it. Keep in mind, before I say this episode is a two-parter. Come back next week as we discuss the Edge magazine reveals and go in depth into a lot of the exciting mechanics of the game, which I'm really looking forward to talking about. But Yooka-Laylee is Donkey Kong Universe.
Gia!
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.